applause as he walks out. It's Ian Palmer.
Good evening, welcome. This is the 5th World's Greatest Drummer concert. Great to see you all. Thank you for your support. We've got some great drummers here, and I really hope you enjoy the evening. Thanks very much. Great to see you all. Thanks.
Okay, thanks Ian. Good to see you. Yeah, one hell of a drummer. Listen, there's only one way we could start this show, is with one of the greatest big band drummers that England has produced in a long, long time. You're going to really enjoy this. Please put your hands together for the one, the only, Pete Cater!
Buddy Rich is the reason I play big band music, and he wasn't my first influence as a drummer. My first influence was my dad, who was a very good semi-pro drummer, and he was crazy about Joe Morello with the Dave Brubeck Quartet. So from a very, very early age, I was exposed to that music, and I didn't really get into Buddy Rich till I was about 5. But there was something about Buddy's playing. He was the first of those great American drummers who I actually saw play on television. And I just had this intuitive feeling right back then that this was something that was going to play a big part in my life. And from the current evidence, it seems that my hunch was about right. I actually find a lot of Buddy's music not particularly showy when you can contrast him with somebody like Gene Krupa, for instance. I thought he had a great library of music which I've managed to definitively reassemble over the years. And even though he wasn't a composer and lots of different guys wrote all the arrangements, it nevertheless feels like a very coherent and cohesive collection of music. And to be able to play it live to audiences now in 2015 is absolutely beyond all things, really. In 1968, my dad spent 150 quid on a very expensive Scandinavian stereo. I won't mention the name, you can guess the one I mean. And 150 quid in 1968 for something that just played vinyl LPs was a huge amount of money. And the first music I heard coming out of these speakers, which were almost as tall as I am, or as tall as I was then, was the Buddy Rich Big Band. And I'd never heard music reproduced with such clarity and power as that, and the impact was immediate and long lasting. I think we've slightly lost our way with getting people out there to be in the same room with you, to experience the moment of creation live and not be filming it on your phone or whatever. Just be there and, you know, be happy that you were there when this was going on, and go and tell somebody about it. With the shows that I do with the band when it's just me, and many times I get asked, when are you going to do a kind of reworking of the classic repertoire that Buddy Rich made famous? And the answer is I'm not, because the records are out there. The whole point of this is to be in a room with a whole load of other people, the more the better, and to experience the music being played live. And you've got, you know, you hear that band go, pow! That's the sound of 12 guys breathing out and a rhythm section. And you know, it's a real event, it's a real occasion. And just to have that coming out of your computer speakers from something that was maybe done 30 years ago, it's not the same kind of level of experience, I think. As far as understanding the role of the drummer playing this acoustic music with the right balance of control and power, I think this is something, because I've been immersed in it for so long, I think this is something that I'm in a, not completely unique, but in a very unusual position to be able to impart to the next generation of people who are coming up. What we should all learn from drummers like Steve Gadd and Ian Palmer and Steve White is that we're all doing the same thing. We're all trying to improve as well. And I'm playing things now that I wasn't playing 6 months ago. And I'll be playing something tomorrow that I've probably never played before. And I'm always looking for that cycle of self-improvement that just continues and continues and continues. Because that's what, that's my mojo. That's what motivates me and makes me want to get up in the morning and sit down and play the drums.
When I first got involved in this music was through my dad. It was essentially through my dad, because I'd shown some aptitude and some interest in drumming as a youngster, but it was my dad that was prepared to drive me up to Ronnie Scott's at the last set was 12 o'clock and he had to get up for work at 7 and we would get back at 5 in the morning, and he could see that it meant so much to me to go and see not only Buddy but Louis Bellson. And at that age of 11, 12, I could see, I was shown in no uncertain terms how high the bar could be raised by how good these people were. I've always been amazingly impressed by people that are exemplary at what they do. I've never been the most talented natural drummer in the world. I've worked really hard for what I do. I know my limitations, but I know I'm a good musician because I listen. And that's a skill, that is a talent that I do know I have. I can listen. But I'm so inspired by the likes of Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson, Tony Williams, and then even out into art and into acting, people that are really, really good at what they do. And that was the game changer for me. And it was also something that my dad said at the time, was like, well, if you're going to be a drummer, be a bloody good drummer. As my career changed, and I knew a change was coming, and I wanted to give myself new goals and new challenges, and getting involved to play properly with a big band as good as this band was one of the first challenges that I really took upon when I finished the sort of so many years working with Paul Weller. There were two things that really made me step my game up. One was getting involved in this and really having to listen to the nuances of playing in a completely different way, all top lead rather than kick drum, snare drum. It's all around the ride cymbal. So I got involved in that, and I also got involved with John Lord's band, which was polemically different from anything that I'd done before, but it just felt the right thing to give myself a kick up the backside. the history and the heritage, and as a fan of Buddy Rich since I was a very small child, it was just felt like the right time to maybe immerse myself a little bit more into that world. And I was also incredibly intrigued at the longevity that some of these players had. You know, some of Buddy's greatest playing was in his 50s. And, you know, age is a number, but, you know, Steve Gadd is 70 and Steve Smith is playing extraordinarily great drums. So my enthusiasm is really been fueled by those kind of examples, rather than, you know, maybe just wanting to be involved in a scene that is all about placating youth. I kind of think I've sort of done that, and I wanted to move on. So, you know, Buddy's music has always been a really integral part of my education musically, and also my sort of celebration. I listen to Buddy Rich pretty much every day in some way, shape or form. Maybe just Norwegian Wood or Jesus Christ Superstar, or, you know, West Side Story, and the wonderful thing about YouTube, you know, is that you get to see it all now, and he intrigues me, his drive, his talent, and the heights that he rose to. It's been a kind of a benchmark for me since I was a child. I met Buddy Rich twice, and he was very, very nice to me as a polite fan and child, you know, which I was, and he gave me a pair of his sticks at one occasion, and then on the second occasion I met him after consolidating my position in the Style Council as drummer, and I walked into a hotel in Manchester feeling really, really good, and I opened the lift to go up to my room, and Buddy Rich was standing there. He'd obviously been down the floor below and he was going up, and he looked at me and he said, "You're going to get in, kid?" And I got into the lift, and I knew I had like 15, 20 seconds, and I just said to him, "I'm a drummer, Mr. Rich. I met you when I was 14 and I've just been playing at Manchester Apollo, and you've been such a massive inspiration." And it all just kind of spilled out, and he shook my hand and said, "Good luck, kid. Keep working." What's really interesting is that I've seen a real kind of resurgence in the kind of drumming that inspired big band drummers. Groove drumming, African drumming, the interest in New Orleans playing, which has a lineage that leads directly into sort of what we're doing with the big bands. Obviously, it's economically tough to be on the road with a big band and to do gigs, but make no mistake about it, it was tough for Buddy Rich, it was tough for Duke Ellington. That's why Jazz at the Philharmonic came around. Lots of musicians like that kind of feeling of like being thrown in at the deep end. At this stage in my career, I don't like it. I like to be prepared. I like to be rehearsed. I like to make sure that I know every nuance so that I can go in and I can give the best interpretation that I possibly can. So in some ways, I know that if I live up to my preparation, I'm going to get the nod, because what else, you know, otherwise they don't want to play with me. But it's an incredible buzz working with a group of musicians when there's more than, you know, most musicians it's like bass, guitar, keyboards, drums, you know. But I've had the privilege to play with a 72-piece orchestra in Sao Paulo, a 70-piece orchestra with John in Luxembourg, and to hear it's a different experience of drumming, because the music does come at you in waves. The strings are kind of slightly behind the beat, and the brass is right ahead of the beat, and it's a different kind of experience to what I was really accustomed to. And this is a good band. These guys are really, really good. And there's nothing like it, you know, it's a real kick up the backside when you hear those trumpets punching, and knowing that you're going to get a little phrase or a little hit or a lick completely in time with them is an absolutely fantastic feeling. And, you know, to a certain degree, there's kind of no more challenging, unless you're going to get involved in extreme prog and fusion music. There's not a lot that's more challenging than getting the hits right with a big band.